Welcome to What is Going for new thought from the edge of Each week on OMTimes flagship radio show, veteran broadcaster, author, and media consultant Sandie Sedgbeer conducts thought-provoking interviews with inspirational authors, artists, musicians, scientists, speakers, and filmmakers who are working at the point where spirituality and science meet consciousness at the very edge of Here is your host, Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello. Over the years, my goal for this show has been to engage in conversations about books, research, esoteric wisdom, and practical tools and teachings with people whose expertise and knowledge can expand our awareness and elevate our consciousness. But as someone once said, music is to the soul what words are to the mind. And so every now and then, I've been moved by some special music to change the focus of the show from thinking to feeling. From words that touch the mind to sounds and lyrics that touch the heart. Back in 2018, I introduced you to a new album released by English guitarist, songwriter and singer Ted Turner, best known for his work with the 1970s rock band Wishbone Ash, and writer, poet, musician and singer Majella, whose professional abilities and unique musical styles blended so exquisitely they not only resulted in marriage, but also in pioneering a new musical genre that fans were quick to label New Age Soul. Tonight, I'm thrilled to welcome back Ted Turner and Majella to share the inspiration behind and sample some tracks from their latest album, Divine Timing. Ted Turner and Majella, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Sandie.
Hi, Sandie.
It's good to have you back, and your first album was called Better Together. Your second album is called Divine Timing. What's the significance of those titles?
Well, essentially, that's a really good question. I just feel like each album, as it's emerging presently, is it's almost like volume 1, volume 2 of the same subject matter, and all of our songs are really inspired by the fact that we are married. We are experiencing both this personal and very creative union, and each song really is asking us to evolve. You know, essentially the songs are like teachers who are awakening us to how we can develop our consciousness and hopefully have a positive impact on others. So Better Together really is sort of us discovering, learning about one another, and moving through any challenges that arise in those early years of marriage. And then as we move into Divine Timing, you know, we're looking at how our commitment has developed in such a way that we know that we've become a proper couple, so to speak. And what I mean by that really is that through the process of being married, through the process of being creative, we've discovered everything about one another that is going to assist us to heal, if you like, and essentially just grow into our greatest selves. So Divine Timing is really the point where we are aware of anything that challenges our authenticity, and now we can share that with others to hopefully have an impact on their consciousness also. That's what I would say.
Ted, in a last interview, you said that playing your guitar, performing your music is a spiritual experience. Now that you and Majella are 3 years further on in your collaboration, your marriage, your life together, is creating music still the same kind of spiritual experience for you, or has it expanded along with your relationship?
The latter, Sandie, definitely expanded, yeah. The deeper understanding between us, you know, our own synergy, that's such a powerful connection. And of course, the inspiration really, I think, for both of us is what as individuals, what can we do that's effective to assist or help others? For me, a big inspiration, of course, was Bucky Fuller back in 1927. He basically was, he began an experiment really, and to discover that what could he do that people weren't paying attention to. And, quite simply, just want the world to work. So how does this happen? I was reading a UN report yesterday of all the statistics of what's going on with the planet, the environment. And I was really shocked to hear that even now, 40% of humanity don't have access to clean water. So it's things like that. It blows my mind, really. I think, well, how am I supposed to trust, what's going on here when you can't even get something like that together? But my point here is that's the overview of things. But before you can even get into that is your inner selves, your cells. We've got to change it from the inside on a personal level. Getting tuned with all that, then you can affect the change out, into the environment. So what can we do? We'd like to spread some beauty in the world, inspire others, draw awareness, and this is what we attempt to do with the music.
Yeah, some people march, some people post, things online, and you guys channel it all into the music. And, as I said at the beginning, music is something that just, goes straight through the ear and straight to the heart. We don't have to think, really. Although the lyrics in your, on this particular album too, they do make us think, and they do remind us in a really deep and non-confrontational way, really. We don't go, oh, I don't agree with that. What we do is, yeah, that's true. That's so true. Which is a much nicer way of getting your point across to the world.
I would agree.
I think also the actual music content as well is sufficiently challenging in that, it's because the songs, I wouldn't describe them as conventional. I think they're very unusual, the actual composition itself. So I think it works on two levels as well, Sandie. It's the lyrics, obviously, they are poignant messages, but also the actual musicality is unusual. So just in that sense alone, it's drawing your attention in deeper. It's asking you to not just pay attention, but really, really listen.
Yes, yeah. The thing I like about your music is you can't pinpoint it. You can't say, oh, that band, that duo, it's always going to be this style. It is, I mean, you guys have very diverse styles, and I think that shows up on your albums. You've only got 8 songs on this album. You had 12 on the previous one. How do you know when enough is enough? How do you make that decision?
Well, actually, that's an interesting thing because we were preparing to record probably another 4 songs, like you said, but we realized that there was so much music there already for the listener that we thought, well, you know what, I think we've done this already. We were quite surprised. I said, it's done. That story is complete.
So it's very much a feeling thing.
It is a feeling thing, but it's also the fact that we don't do short. So, the way the recording process itself takes us on this almost like a pilgrimage, really, a musical pilgrimage. And so we can go in with the idea that we essentially feel is the song, it's the starting point. But what we arrive at, the destination, is never, ever, ever looks like how it began. And so the songs will the songs are almost like the producers. And that's what I love about the recording process. It's so mysterious that you just go with it, you just surrender with it, and you allow all these rooms to be opened. I don't tend to think of a song in terms of verse, chorus, verse, bridge. I'm aware of that, but I tend to be more aligned to the atmosphere of what's being created. And so we go into these rooms, and of course we end up in a place where we've got a piece of music that is an extended length of time. And so, it's just like writing a play. You want it to be perfectly timed so the listener gets a sufficient rest, a break, in order to just process what they've heard.
Now, you've said that every song on this album, apart from one, emerged from a poem. Is that normal for you?
It's evolving all the time. It's evolving all the time because as we become more in tune as a collaborative team in every respect, then, the design of the composition is changing and evolving all the time. But for me, it's a natural starting point because the poems essentially come from a spiritual practice. And I think I can speak for Ted here as well. Words that come through, we generally feel are a download. We don't necessarily sit and compose around a theme. We have done that, but I wouldn't say it's... We tend to go with the flow. For me, poems come through if I'm in nature, or certainly when I'm meditating, when I'm in that quiet space, when I'm sufficiently still enough. And I tend to refer to the poems that come through as the sister within, a sort of spiritual guide. And so it starts there, really, as a process of dissecting myself through this unknown assistance, so I can sort of develop my own self-realization. And then other times I might be making the bed and I just start singing a song, that the melody, the words, everything are there, the shape is there. I go to the piano and for whatever reason I just stick my fingers on the keys and there it is.
There it is.
So it's a difficult thing to get your head around. You just have to trust.
Yes, I can imagine. You've got 8 different and really beautiful songs on this album. It's impossible for us to cover all of them. We've only been able to select 3, and I chose them based on one, which is my favourite from the album, and 2 others that give a good feeling for the variety, for the variation here. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a segment. A long segment, but a segment from one of your songs called Cruise in the Sky. And after that, we're going to go straight to the break. But when we come back, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about the inspiration for Cruise in the Sky. So let's hear that now.
There, cruising the sky. They're watching over us with the third eye. They could put an end to human self-destruct. The denial is the disease and it's ready to erupt. We have our uses, but they don't need our earth. But what if they have found so much more.
The future of internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
Mental health. Most people think it means mental illness. Most people are wrong. Mental health doesn't apply to just some of us. It applies to everyone. We're all susceptible to anxiety and depression. They're human conditions, and no person should ever feel embarrassed, ashamed, or be discriminated against for being human. Cracked the podcast strips away the shame, fear, and stigma by expanding the conversation into areas less often visited. From brain and body chemistry, hormones, food, nutrition, trauma, and the microbiome, to pharmaceutical drugs, psychedelic substances, meditation, visionary experiences, and spiritual awakenings. Cracked the podcast will explore them all, including the notion that, for many, breakdown can be the beginning of breakthrough. For in the words of singer-songwriter Leonard Cohen, there is a crack in everything. It's where the light gets in. Cracked the podcast, slaying the dragons of mental health. Join co-hosts Sandie Sedgbeer and Rebecca Shaper on the first and third Thursday of every month at 12 noon Eastern Time.
Coping 19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
If you're feeling increasingly lonely right now, you're not alone. It's totally normal. Even though we may not be able to get together in person, connecting virtually with friends and family still gives you a chance to interact with people and may help raise your spirits. Join a virtual book club, set up group text chats, or online video coffee breaks with coworkers.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Welcome back. Well, the words to that song, they're always there cruising the sky, watching over us with their third eye. What was the inspiration for this? I mean, have you seen them?
Have you seen them? Well,
Well, actually, we have, yeah. We were at that garden. We were watching one of the Stephen Greer movies, his documentary, Unacknowledged. And repeatedly through the program, he shows you these beams of light, because essentially that's how they show themselves. They're coming out of one realm into another. So briefly, you will see a light. And just to cut the story real short, we're sitting out in the back garden, and basically we see exactly what we saw in this documentary, just swooshing right across the sky in a low arc. Majella asked me, she says, "Is that a shooting star?" I said, "I don't think that's a shooting star, darling."
but initially, I mean, obviously that was a pretty amazing experience. This was, the words came through in a meditation, and literally they dropped in. I don't know, it wasn't a long time, 10 minutes. And the way I tend to remember these words is I'll just recite them like a mantra as each line surfaces. And then I just keep repeating. And then when I come out of meditation, I'll just write it down. But what I feel about this song, because you're always learning about what the song's about, when it initially comes through, I can honestly say that I don't always understand everything that I'm channeling, shall I say, because I do think it's a form of channeling. But what I understand about it now as I reflect on the content is that, we're not on our own, and that there are these other beings of light that are potentially trying to adjust our awareness, our perception that we are also beings of light, and that, we can in fact have a very different approach to our life. We tend to have our own set of fears, but the message that's coming through is that if we can be more curious about whatever the fear is, whether it's a natural fear or something that is just not helpful, that has existed in your mind for a long time, if we can begin to become more curious about accepting that exists, and we can just go into that in a more open way and surrender to it, then we can actually move towards being essentially kinder to ourselves, and therefore we can be a universal family, a cosmic family, and basically be a human race that has a kindly disposition. So the whole process, everything that we went through, from conceiving the words, the download, the composition, the experience in the studio, recording it, this, I would say, was the song that took the most amount of surrender. And Ted can probably explain that best, the way he took the reins in terms of the production in the studio, because it was very different to any other song.
Well,
Ted, do you
yeah,
want to
we
say
just
something about that?
Well, yeah, basically we just created the atmosphere really for that one. Before we put our imprint on it, it was just let's create the atmosphere for this. What does this evoke for us, the others out there? Majella, speaking of fear, well, that's what's been put upon us by the official story of UFOs or whatever. There was just a report that came out a few days ago or something from the Pentagon, because it was requested to do so. And of course, what they generally promote is a fear factor. Is this a national security threat? Which what we're writing about is the complete opposite. Is that what if any other form of life would actually come and benefit humanity, raise our consciousness, awareness, give us the best of something that we're not even really approaching yet, as a collective. What if they could just change the whole spectrum, our whole paradigm really of thought, that's a possibility. Now that's a completely different concept. What a beautiful thing that could be. But just back to the production. So the difference there was, with sound effects and all these things we can do now with modern technology, just create that atmosphere of what we'd like to sit in. I mean, the difference between Better Together and Divine Timing is that this is really all our energy. We didn't. We had some session musicians come in. We traveled to Chicago and had a bass player and a drummer play our music. But of course, they're not part of it. They're hearing it almost for the first time, and because of their expertise, they can complete their task very quickly. But it doesn't have the same sensitivity, and that's the key word here. Both Majella and I are highly sensitive people. But that we're also, that comes through as our musicianship, and we play off each other. So for us to do all the parts here, Majella and I switch the task of playing bass, whether it's on the keyboard or a bass guitar. So to follow this from beginning to end, from concept to production, the engineering, everything, it was all our energy. That had a much more intimate result. And I think that's the main difference.
And what I enjoy about this song as well, Sandie, just to add one other point, is through this process, because we created this atmosphere, it's almost like, you know, when you're in a class with a really good teacher and before you even get the objective on the board, you're having fun because the vibe in the space is just, you know, it's freeing. It's freeing, it's ensuring, and basically the way that the performance came through, when I listen to this song, I always feel like I'm transformed back into a childlike existence. The innocence, the good vibe, the lightness of it all. We don't have to get heavy about things that might seem heavy. We can just approach it with a lightheartedness, and I think the others, that's their lesson as light beings. Can we just tread a bit lighter on this earth?
And I think you're absolutely right. You nailed it there. It does give you that buoyancy.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's nothing sort of, you know, scary or heavy about that song at all. It's very uplifting. And it's very sort of, it makes you want to move around. And, I can see children responding to that really well. So tell me about your track Woman, because you spell this with a capital W and a capital M.
Well, this is the coming together of the masculine and the feminine. And obviously, a man and a woman, Ted and I, come together as opposite sexes. However, as we all know, we're aware of that these energies exist within each and every one of us. And when we move beyond those labels, which really, the words are centered around, you know, the Buddhist message of how much we can love, how much we can live gently, and how gracefully we can move through life. We can let go. We can be in the moment, whether it's a good moment, a difficult moment. Let go of it. Make it equal. And I think that relates really well to how we balance our own masculine and feminine energies. And basically remove the labels and move into a state of non-attachment in order that we can feel whole. And I think that's very relative to our journey as well together. When you're in that younger stage of love, you can tend to feel that the other person, they amaze you so much that you feel that they're completing you in a way. But through our relationship, you know, I've very much discovered that all that Ted does, and hopefully I do for him, is he enables me for everything about me to come through, to emerge, for me to be the fullest expression. So he's like a catalyst. He's not completing me. He's just enabling me to realise that I am complete. And the song really has that message at its core, that even though we're all different and we have these seemingly opposite energies existing within us, that actually it all serves a bigger picture. And if we can see that in us and balance that in us, then maybe we can move into a union that feels real, and where you can be everything you are, the good, bad and the ugly, and actually not make a big deal of it. Just flow with everything that you are. Don't hold on to it. And therefore, you know, you're just basically lightening up your whole existence, really. So that's where it came through in terms of lyric-wise. And of course, what's interesting about this song, Sandie, is that this song, from what I can remember, did not have a chorus as such. And when we actually, these are the strange things that happen when you get into the red light goes on. So the red light's on, we're in it, we're going with it. And all of a sudden I started singing these words, which felt very much like had the weight, the gravity of a chorus. Oh, we're here now, we're at the hook. But this was unbeknownst to me, you know, this was emerging from me for the first time. So much so that when I went back to actually, what did I do there? What was that? And when I went to go back to try and play this, I couldn't. I actually had to use that recording to teach me how to sing the chorus. So the whole process of writing cannot really, for us anyway, it can't be separated from the recording, because it's like we go into the studio with a sketch and, you know, we come out of the studio with the shape, the actual shape of the song. And if you think about it, that's what we're experiencing on the inside. You go inside, you go in deep, and you discover what energies exist there, and you come out of it, hopefully, feeling clearer and feeling stiller and just more able to accept all of what makes you you. So that's what the song is, really. Acceptance of one another, our differences, but again, starting with you. What's going on inside you?
Yeah. Well, it's a shame we can't play that one, but we only have so much time. I want to move on to my favourite song, which is Like Never Before, and I like this one so much that I kept 5.5 minutes of something that's just over 6 minutes. So we're going to play through to the break this particular track, and when we come back, perhaps, Ted, you could tell us a little bit about Like Never Before. So let's hear that now.
What you do and say. Do you believe in the state of play? There's a light going round. Are we lost, still found? So many hearts unaware. Choices leading to despair. Yet the times of change. We resist to rearrange. So raise your voice across the land, rising up hand in hand. The world is crying out like never before. And if you fall along the way, what you learn will save the day. Is crying out like never before. This planet belongs to me and you. We belong. Let's not forget about the animals too, 'cause we're all flesh and blood. Are we living like we could? 'Cause I heard tale of a prophecy. A prophecy. Seas of change, a chance to be all we can, who we are. A new way. Not so far if we raise our voice across the land, rising up hand in hand. The world is crying out like never before. And if you fall along the way, what you learn will save the day. The world is crying out like never before. love, there's always hate. Yet the truth is at stake. The battles won't forsake. Each of us must change our way.
Change our way.
Make it count how we live our days. Yes, it's time.
It's time to be real.
For this world,
Let's make our melody.
raise your voice across the land, rising up hand in hand.
The world is crying out like never before.
If you fall along the way, what you love will save the day. The world is crying like never before. It's crying out like never before. Like never before.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hello, I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes' flagship radio show, What Is Going On? As a long-time editor, book judge, spiritual magazine publisher and radio host, I've read thousands of books and interviewed hundreds of authors and teachers, so I know what's worth reading and what isn't. Now, with the spiritual book market growing increasingly crowded, more and more people are seeking my help in finding the authentic voices, the empowering tools, and the genuine skip the BS guidance that will make the most difference to their spiritual development. So I decided to make it easier by bringing my knowledge, experience, and considerable network of contacts together in the No BS Spiritual Book Club. There are no ads, no joining fees, no obligations, and no BS. Just an ever-growing library compiled by recognisable and respected names of the 10 best books that helped them the most on their journeys. Plus free book excerpts, audios, and live video interviews where you can quiz them about their spiritual journeys and their 10 best list choices. Your time and money are valuable, your spiritual journey even more so. If you're looking for genuine guidance from people who've walked this path before you, check out Sedgbeer.com. Click on the No BS Spiritual Book Club tab and join the club. That's Sedgbeer.com, SEDGBEER.com. I'll see you there.
If I could be you,
and you could be me for just 1 hour,
if you could find a way
to get inside each other's mind,
walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back. Yeah, I can understand why people have started talking about your music as New Age soul. I mean, it's filled with soul. And that last track, I've got to tell you, this has been in my head all day long. Every time I become aware that I'm singing it in my head without even knowing the words. But I just love that one. So what was the inspiration behind that one?
For me, Sandie, that goes back to Bucky Fuller again, really, because he conveyed to me the importance of what an individual, the power an individual can have. You know, we all have that power essentially. I mean, it's common that when we encounter obstacles, we impatiently perceive that there's no point in continuing to pursue a path that feels authentic, and the message is suggesting that the seeming blocks are the redirection to the countless ways of making a difference. And of course, we're facing this global environmental crisis, and it can be overwhelming. You know, how can I make a difference in all of that? So it is drawing attention to that. It's drawing attention that, maybe we've second-guessed our life calling, maybe even believing that it's not possible to find our most valuable, contribution. But we're asking all of us really to stop and reflect on the power of your own voice to move into the truest version of ourselves, in every aspect of our life. Yeah.
That is beautifully said, Ted. Really. I mean, in a way, what you've said is what it actually reflects, because I could see this becoming an anthem. I could see being played in stadiums. It's a sort of song that people would take up, for a cause. You should send it to Greta Thunberg and have her play it every time she has, a climate event, because it has that capability to, to really touch the soul very deeply.
Yeah, well,
and
you touch on something. Yeah, you touch on something important there. That's what we are very much interested in, or in these interesting collaborations. We would be overjoyed, if someone like Greta Thunberg would be, like to share the music that would help causes. We're interested in that. So we were having a conversation with you the other day, Sandie, and as we're talking, we had a message come through from Stephen Greer. Now, he's about to have another documentary come out, and it's just being suggested that possibly they may use Cruising the Sky, for one of his projects. So it's things like that that really sort of get our, we're inspired by if we can use
This is what you're writing it for, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we don't have an awful lot of time. We've got about 10 minutes left. I want to play, before we reach the end, the final track on your album. And I want to play it now so that we can then talk about it. We'll have a few minutes afterwards. And this is a song that I know has been described as sensual, sexy, swampy, a meditative experience. So let's have a listen to that and see, how people respond to it.
it shines. Yeah, shadow will persist, so you better watch out for the signs. So journey. Yeah, my God, let me there. This is the year of destiny. Yeah, this is how we get. Courage is a flow. Give 'em form to spirit.
Sensual, sexy, swampy indeed. That's the sort of thing you can see yourself, dancing to in a nightclub somewhere. It's very bluesy. It's very it kind of gets into the bloodstream, doesn't it?
And someone said as well, it sounds like we're actually making love, which I thought was a really lovely thing to say.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So this is quite different from the others. It's called Flow. Tell us a little bit about how this one came into being.
So we wanted the song to sound like it was flowing. We wanted to actually capture, well, what does it feel like to flow? And as ever, we don't really have a prescribed way in which we're going to make this happen. But what we did do, there was a theme throughout this album. We wanted to include sound effects from, if you like, our own environment, the natural soundtrack that we have playing in our home. So the music at the beginning and at the end of the song is actually our fountain in our back garden. Ted just recorded that sound, just really to enforce the whole idea that everything is in continual motion. This trance-like energy that I certainly feel when I'm listening and when we were creating the piece, for me that's centered around what I think is a signature aspect of our music. That you mentioned dancing, that the actual voice and the guitar seemingly feel like they're kind of dancing with one another. And so those energies, when they connect and weave around one another, they're creating a harmony that goes, for me, that even goes beyond the actual notation. It's just something about the syncopation and the breath in between, and the way that we bounce off one another, pick up from one another, that you can't. I don't think that isn't something we planned. It's just something that happens in the way that we interact. So the song is about, just being within the flow, allowing whatever comes through to be, and allow that to be your way of moving through life. I don't know whether Ted wants to add to that.
Well, this track particularly, this was the first song that we actually recorded, so it's interesting it ended up being the last one on the album. But part of our musical style, the structure of layering, So we will play live together, we'll sing and we'll play the song through, and we'll say, well, that's okay, let's do another one. We usually do 3 or 4 takes, and then we will listen back. So, of course, the process of recording, we can pick out the best bits, and then you can put them all together. So it isn't, so reviewing that, it wasn't actually put together in this manner, but then when you do put them together, something sort of magical comes out of it. You think, wow, look how that's come with that. There are 2 totally separate pieces, but it's really saying something. So, as I say, that's part of something that we've discovered, during this recording process. It's very effective.
You said, Majella, you said something about you wanted to give people the feeling of the flow, and I came across a quote earlier which taps into that perfectly. Music is what feelings sound like, and that describes, that particular song, to a T.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
I think also, Sandie, what I'd add to that is this sort of new age soul that we came up with. How do you get there? You get there essentially through good vibes. And I think that's what flow is. Flow, you know that you're in the flow because you get this sense of you're in your heart. And, for me personally, the heart is what knows. That's my innate knowing. And then your higher self, whatever you want to call it, your soul, can remember. And that's all that we're trying to do, really. We're just trying to remember, to extricate all the machinations of the mind and, come back to this place of just centeredness, stillness. And that's what I feel when I listen to that song. By the end of it, I just feel like I've had a beautiful meditation. And I just feel in a place of clarity, and as I say, it happens really. Oh, we'll make this song about clarity. The songs are always awakening, teaching us. That's the way it happens.
We are going to have to leave it there. I just want, Ted, for you to say one last thing before we leave, and it has to be very brief, and that is, what do you want people to take away from this album?
Just that we're all involved in this cosmic wave. We just mentioned the word wave, but this ultimate wave being love, and that it's all transmissible. That's all we're doing. We're doing it through music. You do it through your words. We all have this capability, and of course, just be kind to your fellow man and every animal, and just be aware of this beautiful planet, respect it, and take care of it.
We've got to stop it right here, I'm afraid. Ted Turner, Majella, thank you. Thank you for letting us share your music. And if anybody is interested in knowing more, they can get your album at tedturnerandmajella.com. Thanks for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
I
love
really
you, Sandie.
enjoyed
Thank
this
you.
show. That's it for tonight's show. I hope you'll tune in at the same time next week. Till then, it's goodbye from me.